Hey guys, I'm going to make another video about a DBT skill. So DBT, again, is dialectical behavior therapy, which was created by Marsha Linehan as a treatment for borderline personality disorder. DBT is extremely skills-based, and I find that the skills that are taught in this therapy are really, really good for everybody and not just people with borderline personality disorder. I'm going to be going over a distress tolerance skill called STOP. So, STOP is found in the crisis survival section of the handbook. So, basically, crisis survival skills are supposed to be used anytime that you're tolerating a very painful event or very strong urges or very intense emotions that you can't make better right away. So, this is when your emotions are really high and you're feeling pretty bad, pretty angry, just feeling very intense in some way. And generally, this intensity is going to lead to you engaging in an ineffective behavior. So let's go over what STOP is now. So STOP is an acronym. So the first letter in the acronym is S, and this stands for stop. So this is stop what you're doing, freeze, like physically freeze, don't move. And this is typically because your emotions are going to make you want to act immediately. So the first thing you do is stop. The T stands for take a step back. So sometimes this is kind of just mentally taking a step back from the situation, taking a deep breath, or sometimes this is actually physically taking a step back from the situation, like leaving the room or excusing yourself to the bathroom or something like that. O stands for observe, and this is where you just want to start thinking about what is going on inside of you and outside of you. So if this is a situation involving other people, what are the other people doing and saying? And if it's a situation involving mostly just you, think about what you're doing and feeling internally. Again, this is because you are probably going to have an impulse to do something. So this is where you just want to observe what that impulse is and what exactly is going on in the situation. And then the last part of the acronym is P, which stands for proceed mindfully. So this is where you want to act with awareness and start thinking about what it is that you actually want to do in the situation. So this is where you want to start trying to engage your wise mind instead of just your emotional mind, because normally when we're talking distress tolerance, you're usually going to be thinking from your emotions. So you want to just think about what you're doing and then actually make the decision with how you are going to proceed. So there's a lot of situations where the stop skill can be useful. I think immediately the situation that comes to my mind is when you're having an argument with your partner, with a friend or parent, basically with anybody. I think stop is really clearly can be used there, because a lot of the times when you're in a very intense emotional argument, you are going to have the impulse to do something that might not be effective. So you might want to yell or say something mean, things that are going to, not help you overall. I'm going to actually go through a little bit of a different example. I always found it really interesting that this skill is found in the crisis survival skills section of the handbook, because I thought of it more as an interpersonal effectiveness skill, like with the situation I just talked about, like when you're in an argument. But since it is a crisis skill, I think I'm going to go through an example of when you're having extremely high urges to self-harm and how STOP would help you deal with those urges. So with our example of the feeling that you want to self-harm, to go through the acronym again, you're going to start with S, which is stop. So if you have already started to engage in your self-harm behavior, if you've already started to do something, you're going to stop. You're going to stop whatever you're doing. And because the behavior of self-harm tends to become automatic over time for a lot of people, this is like a really good way to try to interrupt that automaticness. So like you see yourself going for it, and then you're just like, wait, I'm going to stop. And then you're going to take a step back. So I think this is a good spot that if you've started the behavior and say like you're using something, put it down and take a step away from it. Maybe even leave the room that you're in. The next part is observe. So this is where you're going to notice the urge. So for me, I would notice like, I really want to self-harm right now. And I might start to think about the reasons why I want to do that and what inside of me is influencing my urge to engage in this behavior. And I think it's another good spot to also look at what is contributing to the increase of intensity, because you can also try to distance yourself from things that are increasing the intensity of the desire to hurt yourself. And then lastly, you would proceed mindfully. So in the situation with self-harm, this is usually a very emotional thing, especially for me. So this is where I would try to ask my wise mind and be like, is engaging in self-harm the effective thing to do right now or the ineffective thing to do right now? And then I would try to proceed based on what my wise mind was telling me. And I think in the case of self-harm, wise mind is pretty much never going to say that self-harm is the effective behavior, because even if it seems effective in the moment, it's going to cause more problems and overall be ineffective. So this is where I would choose, ideally, to proceed with doing something else. Maybe this is turning to another skill, or, going to distract myself or something else and not engaging in the self-harm behavior. So overall, with the stop skill, the idea behind it is to interrupt an automatic behavior. So in the example of self-harm, if that's something that when you feel very emotionally overwhelmed, that's kind of your go-to, the stop is to help give you a little bit of time to actually think about how you want to act in the situation and not just do what is automatically coming to you. And I think it's the same in the situation where you're in an argument with someone. If you're in an argument, generally, when things get intense and get heated, it's very automatic to start yelling, start, saying mean things. And this is another way to give yourself that time to actually think about it and not just proceed with what your emotion mind is telling you to do. I think it's really good to practice these skills in situations where your emotions aren't super strong and things aren't intense, because crisis survival skills are meant to be used in extremely intense situations. It makes it even more important to practice them outside of those situations, because once you're in a really intense situation, a lot of the times you're not going to be able to access skills at that point. So if you can practice it and stop becomes a little bit more automatic for you, you're going to have an easier time accessing it in a situation where your emotions are really intense. The way that I heard someone say that they practiced this skill was in one of my DBT group therapies that I was in, and I thought it was super clever, so I'm going to share it with you guys too. So this particular person said that she practiced the stop skill every time she brushed her teeth. So twice a day, however many times you brush your teeth, she would go, and she actually had the acronym written on her mirror, and she would go through the steps while brushing her teeth. So she would start brushing her teeth and then go through the acronyms. So she would be brushing her teeth and then she would stop. So she would stop brushing her teeth, stop what she was doing, and then she would take a step back from the situation. So she would pause and, take the toothbrush out of her mouth, wait a second, take a deep breath, and then she would observe. So she would observe that she is brushing her teeth and that she is brushing her teeth because she's about to go to bed, and she always brushes her teeth at night before she goes to bed, and just kind of noticing what she was doing. And then she would proceed mindfully. So in that situation, she would assess that brushing her teeth is the effective thing to do. So then she would go on and continue brushing her teeth. I thought that this was super clever, because I find it really hard to think of times to practice skills outside of when I need them. And then when I need them, I haven't practiced them, so I can't really get to them. So I thought that was really great and really clever. If you guys have ideas of how you've maybe practiced this skill or other skills, or a situation where you think that this skill might be helpful to you, feel free to leave that in the comments. I always love hearing what you guys think about these things. And if you have any questions about this skill, if anything wasn't super clear, please also let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. And I hope everyone's having a great day, and thank you guys so much for watching.